So thank you very much, Tim, for joining us. We're really happy to have you here. This is for the ProVisors Bay Area International Group, but we're sorry you couldn't be with us in person. We'll be meeting virtually next week, but really delighted that you could join us now and be a part of our group. I think that you have an amazing reputation as being a business leader and someone that has done so much to move innovation forward and technology forward. So we're just really delighted to have you be a part of this program. And so we'll talk a little bit and get your insights.
Good. I'm delighted to be here. And ProVisors, the international world is becoming more and more important in these times when various governments are locking down instead of opening up. We need people like you to connect each other and learn from each other and spread good word back and forth. And I want to thank Grazia Bennet also for having me on this, because I know she's a terrific member there and does great real estate in San Francisco. We bought our house through Grazia at Sotheby's. So anyway, thank you so much David for having me on, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, great. Well, you kind of talked about the first point, but just want to go into it. This group is focused on international business, and we're hearing a lot about nationalism, not globalism. Borders are closed, trade is under attack, international investment is being really scrutinized, just not here, but in Europe as well and other parts of the world. To ask you a question, do you think the era of globalization is dead? Where do you see international opportunities now and, for existing companies and future investments?
Yeah, that's a great, great question. And it leads me to sort of a whole historic rendition. So let me kind of go through it briefly. The internet opened up our world. I'll go back even further. We used to be tribal. It would be my tribe against your tribe. We'd draw a line, say, you don't cross this line, I don't cross this line, and we'll be at peace, and we can grow from there, and we can build our economies and our worlds independent of each other. And then the internet happened, and the world opened up, and we realized that, wow, instead of being threatened by those people, we can work with those people, and we're all better off. And that has been the case for many, many years. And we've grown. The whole world has benefited in a great way. I do a lot of traveling and have for many years, all my life. And I've seen some amazing transformations in all different parts of the world, where some countries have gone from complete, utter starvation to a great thriving economy with a lot of great wealth being created and a lot of great economic systems in place, so that people are well fed, clothed, sheltered, and things go well.
Yeah, I think that someone mentioned that poverty itself, was eliminated for a huge part of the world just by China's standard of living going up. So that's just one example of that. Yeah,
the other thing is if you have a farm and I have a house and we don't do a deal, then I die of starvation and you die of exposure. And you multiply that by the 8 billion people around the world, we're all interconnected. All those supply chains and all of that, you take a pen and you say, well, who has touched this pen? I would say probably 1 million people and probably 100 countries have been involved in making this pen, whether it's the coke that comes to blend with the iron ore to create just this little thing, or the various tints that create a certain color of pen. All of these things, they're all interconnected. And when you put down a trade war or a barrier of some sort, you're hurting your own people. And it's very dangerous. And it tends to be ego driven, and it tends to escalate where one stops one thing, one stops another, one stops, then they escalate, and then we all lose. And so free trade is so important for our world. We can do so much by opening borders, and we are so much damaging people by closing them. In fact, I'll give you one example. COVID is now, it looks like it's going to kill about 1 million people. But the lockdown is going to create 135 million people who die of starvation because of the lockdown, not because of COVID, but the lockdown. So the idea of stopping trade, of stopping travel, of stopping restaurants, of whatever, that is more damaging to society than any pandemic. And the UN came up with that report. 135 million people will die of starvation because of the lockdown from COVID, not because of COVID. Only 1 million will die from COVID. Still, it's horrible, but it's not 135 million.
Yeah.
So we're all interconnected. We should keep that interconnection. We're all better off. You know, and some people, there's this movement toward socialism. And I've got to laugh. All they need to do is stand at the DMZ between North Korea and South Korea, and they will know that if you have a socialist dictator for 4 generations, you have an average per capita income of about $100. If you have a free market capitalist society, you have you're South Korea, and you have an average income of about 43,000 per person. That's a huge, huge difference. And here's the real killer. Since it's been 3 or 4 generations, the average South Korean is now 4 inches taller than the average North Korean. And that's all. If you got a free market, everybody wins. If you've got a socialist dictatorship, socialist government, communist government, everybody loses. You get cut off from society. You get cut off from all the trade that happens around the world. Anyway, I think that Bitcoin opened the world up in a new way. The internet opened the world up in a big way. We all of a sudden, geographic borders didn't mean as much. Everything was going fine and growing. And then Bitcoin came along, and suddenly we had a global currency. And a lot of governments were threatened by that. And the governments, there are two forks that happen. One, a government that goes in the direction of going, hey, more freedom, better for society, let's use it. And then there were the governments that said, oh, I want to go back to tribalism, pull back, get rid of all of this. We want to control our people, and I don't care if, I'm Argentina with an Argentinian peso that drops 50% every year. I'm still going to control that country with my currency. Big mistake, but
where does America fit in that
America, it's interesting.
Continuum?
It's a great question. My sense is that the SEC is doing this balancing act between using those 80-year-old laws that are restricting progress and trying to kind of go, well, no, it's got to fit into this certain set of rules that we have for currencies and then or securities. And then at the same time, they're saying, wait, with our laissez-faire attitude on the internet, we benefited hugely in the US. Let's keep that laissez-faire attitude with Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and that kind of thing. So the US has been balanced, but I don't like the trade war with China. I think that's really bad news. And I don't like that the Chinese dictator is just locking down that country. It's a huge mistake. They're going to lose all that entrepreneurial energy, and they'll go from a country that's taking off to one that just goes flat. he is damaging the people of China. And I think he and a number of other countries are really abusing power. And the U.S. it's been kind of a weird balance. I don't like the trade war. I don't like the border wall. I do like that they're trying to make it work for a new kind of currency, a new kind of decentralized world that's open to the rest of the world. And the U.S. has historically been very open to other countries, and only recently has sort of closed down. And that's dangerous.
What country do you think is doing a good job on cryptocurrency? I know we have an office in Hong Kong, and they seem to be somewhat on the forefront of being a little more aggressive and looking at opportunities there. Where do you see part of around the world where cryptocurrencies are kind of being adopted more liberally, so to speak?
Yeah, well, Switzerland had the tiger by the tail at the beginning, but then they got a little too heavy regulated, and now they're backing off and making it a little freer market. But it's like Binance started in China, and then China clamped down, said, we're going to make this illegal. And then they moved to Singapore, and Singapore got heavy-handed. And so then they moved to Malta, and Malta said, bring it on. I would say countries, and now Switzerland is very much a bring it on country. They're coming back. They lost their hegemony in this world, but it's coming back. Estonia in everything but crypto is taking a great lead in the idea of a decentralized world. They have their they were the first ones to do electronic voting, and it turns out all the young people started to vote. And then they did electronic record keeping, and the business climate and the crime rate went down. The business climate went up and the crime rate went down. And they did electronic signatures, and that saved 2% of their GDP. And then they did this e-residency program and made it so you don't actually have to live or even set foot in Estonia, but you can set up a bank account, set up a business anywhere in Europe with an Estonian e-residency card. I don't think they took it far enough, but they did start. They were the pioneers. They did start the idea that governments are in competition with one another. Governance is an industry. It's something that you can provide to your constituents, but also can provide over borders in other places. And I know of about 5 organizations that are doing seasteading, that are setting up governments that are 11 miles offshore. And I know of one space chain that's doing it up in space, where you can actually create a government, a decentralized government that provides great service to individuals who want to be a part of that government for less money and with better service than their existing country provides. And what is government? It's a lot of insurance. Most of it's just insurance packages, and you can run an insurance company from anywhere now.
Yeah, I thought when you mentioned you're saying the DMZ, I thought you were going to say the DMV, which as you know, in California is a lot like socialism. It is.
You want socialism? That's what you got. You got the DMV.
But anyone had to get their license renewed, especially trying to get the new one. It was like Soviet era Russia. You had to have 2 pieces of ID. My daughter could get hers renewed recently because she did not have her Social Security card, which I have to tell you, I can't remember, where mine was ever having a Social Security card, paper card somewhere. My wife, who's a fantastic person, actually saved my daughter's Social Security card, so now she can get it. But it's pretty amazing.
But aside there are a bunch of catch-22s there, and then they make you make an appointment, and you make the appointment for 2 o'clock or whatever, and then they ignore it, and the whole day goes by, and then 5 o'clock hits, and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have an appointment." Then you have to go make another appointment.
Well, you're an incredible investor. So where do you see internationally? What are the places that we talked about Estonia, we talked about China, but what are the sectors and what are the geographies that you're particularly interested in? So, Singapore, are you looking at companies there? Are you still looking at companies in China? Are you still looking at companies in other parts of Europe? I think what's kind of on your radar screen right now, both geographically and kind of from a sector standpoint globally?
So I'm a long-term window. So the things I'm looking at might not really come into effect for most people for 5, maybe even 15 years. But I was the first Silicon Valley venture capitalist to go invest in China and do startups in China. And I was also the first Silicon Valley venture capitalist to put a stop on it when I realized that the new dictator is clamping down on everything, and he just wants to own everything. And that he's made it so his people are not free, they are not open, they are having a very difficult time. Entrepreneurs in China are either getting out, so there's a big brain drain, or they're just very depressed because the system is not favoring them right now. So no, I'm not putting any money into China now. And I actually pulled out as much as I could, and now I still have a lot trapped there under bureaucratic lock and key. I have recently been to India, and it looks like that country is taking off. It had a really good vibe to it, much better than I thought it would. I think when Modi made everybody convert their currency and put it all into the bank or whatever, that got rid of a lot of the corruption. He sent a message that we're getting rid of corruption. And if you show me a poor country, I show you a corrupt country, where it's corrupt from the top all the way down. You show me a rich country, it's an honest, trusting country. And Singapore is a good example because 80 years ago, they were as poor as South Korea, and now they're as rich as North Korea. And it all had to do with trust and honesty. And that honesty started at the top with Lee Kuan Yew. And so those are the countries I look for, the ones where it's changing. I look for the big changes. So I think I think Europe's going to, both Eastern and Western Europe are going to be pretty good places to invest in early stage venture capital. They kind of went from Europe is the king of the world to the wine and cheese generation. And now they've got a bunch of young entrepreneurs that have a lot of potential. And so we're always we are currently looking quite a bit in Europe, or until we weren't allowed to go to Europe, for startup activity. Singapore is always a good, Singapore, Korea, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia. Singapore, Korea, and Taiwan are all very solid, good free market economies, perfectly fine to invest in. Southeast Asia, Indonesia, and Malaysia, and some of those other countries are also very promising because they're becoming more honest, and they're very, like, their middle class is growing, and things are going very well there. Other parts of the world, I think, Russia, I think Russia might be not great for a long time, but so many good technologies come out of Russia. So many great entrepreneurs come from Russia that I wouldn't want to close off to Russia. I just probably wouldn't want to back anything in the country. I wouldn't mind backing some great Russian entrepreneurs who come to the US or some other place. And then South America, you know, it's I had a great conversation with two conversations with President Macri of Argentina before he lost power. And the first one was I told him all about Bitcoin. And then the next time, it was about 2 years later, and I said, during that time, I need to admit that Bitcoin's gone from 10,000 down to 4,000. But I said also during that time, Argentinian peso's gone from 75 cents to 25 cents. And I said, so let's make a bet. And if the Argentinian peso does better over the next year, then I'll double my investment in Argentina. But if Bitcoin does better, you'll make Bitcoin your national currency. And he was almost, I almost got him to bet. I got him to shake, but not bet. And I almost got him to bet, but if he had done it, he would have done a couple of things. Sent the world a message that Argentina is open for business. Entrepreneurs are going to love it because Bitcoin's a national currency. I told him also to put don't spend on anything but 5G, so that he has 5G everywhere in Argentina. And then, he didn't do it, and he's now out of office. And now the Argentinian peso, Bitcoin's gone up to 11,000, and the Argentinian peso is below 1 penny. They've decimated their economy, and it's all because they've got this weird debt with the IMF, and they can't seem to ever pay it off. And the IMF never wants to face the music that they probably won't be able to pay it off. And so that it's like they used to say, in Russia, they used to say, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us. It's kind of the same feeling. So I think that South America, Sebastian Piñera did an amazing job with Chile. And I've recently talked with Lacalle from Uruguay. And both of them are great leaders, have a good sense for a free market. They're creating honesty and trust throughout their countries. And that will benefit them big time. So trust creates wealth in your country, and corruption creates poverty in your country.
How about the coronavirus? How is the COVID-19? We talked a little bit about the lockdowns and your concerns about that, but we're seeing from my firm's practice is seeing some winners and losers, frankly, from this, and that we're seeing some businesses totally devastated, a lot of hospitality business, as we discussed, but we're also seeing some companies that are doing incredibly well, essential businesses, work from home technologies, entertainment businesses, things like that. What are you seeing? Are you seeing investment opportunities that are coming from this pandemic?
Yeah, we're seeing both. Same thing you're seeing. People are using VR now because they were stuck in place and they tried to escape, good escape with VR. And so the VR companies are doing well. The companies that are tied to, Bitcoin wallet numbers went up crazy high for two reasons. First, people were locked in place and they said, I've been putting this off for a while. Maybe I should just try setting up a Coinbase account or something. And they do. And then what happened was they realized that their Bitcoin was stable, and they know that their dollars, because the government printed 13 trillion of them, their dollars are going to drop in value. So the Bitcoin's a better bet than the dollar. I also think a lot of the companies that we funded are thinking about the future, and they were accelerated. So yeah, the remote medicine. We have one company called Verge Genomics that apparently used they use computational biochemistry to, they put a disease up on the screen, then they run all these off-patent drugs against it, and then they'll see a match. Well, they have found a drug that is 26 times as effective as remdesivir on curing COVID. And they're getting that through FDA now, and they've got 6 drug companies all
They need to
considering.
send it to the White House. They need to send it to the White House right away.
Yeah, they should. Actually, it may have been the experimental drug they were talking about using on Trump. It's very possible that was it. And then people are doing a lot more remote medicine. They're doing remote, and of course, Amazon and Zoom have never seen a better environment for them.
Great. We really appreciate you joining us. We've made, ProVisors has made a contribution to BizWorld, which just as a tiny thank you to you. It's a really fascinating organization. Can you tell us a little bit about it and, why you founded it 20 years ago and what's happened with it and, your work with Draper University?
Yeah, I went through a lot of great education. It was when the public schools in California were first in the nation, and now, of course, they're 47. But I went through those public schools, and then I went to Andover, Stanford, Harvard Business School. No one taught me how a business could get started. No one taught me Harvard Business School taught about a balance sheet and an income statement, all that. But my daughter one day said, "What do you do? Where do you go?" And so I instead of telling her, I created this game where she liked making friendship bracelets. So the game was all about creating a friendship bracelet industry inside the classroom. And we broke them into teams of 6, and it was a huge success. And the teacher and the principal said, "You got to teach my 5th and my 6th and my 7th, my 8th grade classes." I said, "Well, I got another job." And so we eventually turned it into a nonprofit, and I went through all the things I had done, and that product has been a part of BizWorld now for 20 years. And BizWorld has spread it to 600,000 children around the world. So they've really done some great work. And it's just I guess now it's about a 3 or 4 week program for the ideal target is somebody 10 to 12 years old. And it's worked out very well. So we appreciate the donation. I think it's great. I think people should learn something about business when they're young. It's not that complicated. It's just a matter of understanding it. And if you play our simulation, you get a pretty good understanding of how business works. And you end up understanding, these are 5th graders. They know how a balance sheet and an income statement work together, and they know what an account receivable is and what profits are, and they have a pretty good sense, and they build a decent vocabulary in business. So I think they overall are going to do very well in their lives because they understand business. So thank you for that.
I went to the Wharton School of Business, which is a pretty good business school, but they didn't actually teach us everything about running a business. So after I graduated, I actually had a couple of businesses, and I would come back and give a presentation to the students on, what are the 3 things about entrepreneurship that they don't teach you at the Wharton School. And the first thing was cash flow, because they didn't really explain. They did what's a balance sheet, what's your income statement look like, but one of the realities of business is that if you don't have the money to pay your bills, you're out of business.
Right.
And so how does that work? And then the second was people. So, they talked a little bit about what it looks like, the fact that you need to hire people and things like that. But we entire classes on marketing, management, but didn't get any idea that how critical it is to find the right people. And then the third thing was, up to politely, BS. The fact that as a business person, as you have to do everything. That there's no, that's not on my job description. If the bathroom needs cleaning and there's no one else to clean the bathroom, then the entrepreneur, you're going to have to clean the bathroom.
And it's
So
hard. It's the hardest. It's the hardest for the people who have had 15 years at Google to come back and start a new business. It's brutal for them because they got, I don't know, 50 people working for them and they all do it for them. So when the bathroom needs cleaning, they're going, wait, who's going to do this?
Yeah. Where's the app? Where's the app I can do for that? Well, it's been great. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Everybody should buy my book. Everybody go to Amazon, get my book, How to Be the Startup Hero. And
I will do it right after this. And maybe post COVID, you can sign it for me.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, I know. I wonder if there's a remote way to do that. Here you go. Here's how I sign it. Anything is possible. Then there's my signature.
Thanks a lot.
Terrific. Well, thanks for having me. And you guys have a great conference. I'm sorry I'm not there to join you in person.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.